What's going on, guys? Blazing here, and today we got another Raid Shadow Legends video, and we are followed on the channel today with the one, the only Toasty Man himself, JAYSTAR3. How are you doing, man?
Hey man, thank you for having me. It's a pleasure to be here.
Glad to have you aboard, man. Glad to have you aboard. How's everything going for you?
Pretty good. I mean, I'm going for OLO right now, and I'm just doing CVC.
Nice, nice. Um, so today we're gonna talk about the guaranteed champs that we've had in game. We're basically just gonna give our brief thoughts on did we go for them? If we did go for them, were they good? Why did we think that they were worth our value on the shard count? And yeah, are you ready to get into this?
Yeah.
All right. So first one we've got back in March of 2021, Countess Lix. She was the very first of the guaranteed to be done, and she was 150 ancients. So, did you go for her?
At the time, I wanted to really bad because I knew people were gonna like hyping her up and saying she's gonna be really good for like Spider and cardio, like that good combo together. But I just already had burners, and I knew like end game people were gonna go crazy. And like I guess the player base knew she was gonna be powerful, but in terms of like end game Spider, people didn't know it was gonna be that insane.
Yeah.
But unfortunately, I didn't go.
Um, I I had just barely gone for the Astrolon Fusion, who's the partner in crime here, and I really, really wanted to go for her, but I was like, that was the time and point where I was like, no, I'm gonna stick to free to play. So, eventually, I did end up pulling her from a shard, but I think overall, she's a solid champ if you pair her with Astrolon. By herself, she doesn't really shine as much, and I think 150 voids for when she came, not voids, sorry, ancients for when she came out. I think that was a fair value. What do you think?
Yeah, it's actually not that bad. Yeah, I was actually I was actually looking at the wrong champion by accident.
I think you were looking at
So,
Cecilia because I was like, you said burn. I was
yeah,
like, he's talking about Cecilia Flame Tongue
yes,
right there.
yeah. I was like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Countess Lix was another champion, very similar. Um, her cooldowns were really high, and the decreased speed was really nice. I knew the A2 was going to be really good. It's kind of a similar situation, but not as powerhouse as the other ones that I was just saying.
Yeah.
Her two passives are the most interesting part that I realized as it went on, because otherwise, like, her A3 is just such a long cooldown, even fully booked, it's like 5 turns.
Yeah.
But her A2 is like the one thing that I noticed that is really nice about her. And Astrolon was really powerful even when he first came out too.
Yeah. I mean, she does have four, she's about a 4.6 all the way down. So she's good. Like I said, I think she was worth 150 ancients, and especially being the first one, everybody was like, yeah, no, we got to go for her. We got to go for her because she paired so well with Astrolon. So,
Right.
so next we have Helior. He was, yep, he's right here. He was 15 sacred shards. Did you end up going for him?
No, unfortunately, there was too many Shaker Shards. A lot of people were saying like he was gonna change the game and be like huge because of the whole passive. It was very unique in the A3. Because there wasn't no any champion like that. No Mithrala wasn't in the game at the time. So there was nothing like that you could convert. It was one of the first champions that you could do, and people were like, "Wow, that's gonna be nuts." And his A1 has sustain, but overall, like I just didn't want to give that many sacreds, and so I didn't do it, unfortunately. But I got him anyways eventually. So
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I didn't go for him. I didn't see the value in him. Um, and I'm kind of glad I didn't go because he just wasn't worth it. I saw a lot of the gameplay from other content creators after that, and I was like, no, I'm kind of glad I didn't spend, the $300, $400 to get him. So,
right.
um, So next, we're actually staying in the same faction, and it was Ursula the Mourner, and she was 15 void shards. Did you end up going for her?
Oh yeah, I did. I was like, it's only 15. You know, like that's normally like when it comes to void, sometimes they're like 30, 40, like, and I'm thinking 15. That's a steal. Like so I was like, yeah, I'm definitely going for her.
Right? No, I mean she was great. I had already had her like the day the patch released, and she dropped. I had already gotten her, but I think for 15 void shards, she was great. I mean, progression for new players, mid-level players. She gets the AoE revive, and she also brings the decreased attack on the A2. I think she was very, very solid, and she gets the strengthen too. So I think value-wise, she was definitely worth the 15 shards, and I think she was probably one of the best void epics that they did for a guaranteed. Uh,
Right.
so so next we have the dwarf, the one and only dwarf, who people wish they could get, Geomancer, and I think this guy is like OP in every content in the game, but they did him for 40 ancient shards. Did you end up going?
I already had a Geo, um, and I just didn't because we have to remember at the time that he came out, his passive wasn't the same. They
Right.
changed Brogni and Geo, and the moment they did that, both of them were like really really good. There was like a 1 or 2 days where technically it was super bugged and people were doing ridiculous amount of numbers.
Ah,
But
4 billion damage on my end.
yeah, it
I
was
was like,
nuts.
yeah, your damage was in the negative instead of the positive.
Yeah,
Um,
it's kind of there's so many new players now. If they would have done it again, people would be definitely go. But at the time, some people probably didn't believe in Geo, and they probably were like, "No, I'm not gonna go for it." Now they're regretting it.
yeah. So do you think it was worth the 40 shards?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. No, I
You
definitely.
should put at least 80.
Oh, don't say that. um, no, I think he overall, even back then, his kit was still solid. I think the 40 ancients was good. If they did it again for 40 ancients, I'm sure a lot of players would still go for it. Uh, Knowing especially what he can do now, there's definitely 100% anybody that has them will go for him, if not buy them to get him. So, next one, I know this one's a spicy one for you.
Yeah.
She, she was introduced and she was meta for a while on Platinum Arena, but Lady Kimmy, and she was 150 ancient shards. I'm gonna just guess you really wanted to go for her.
Yeah. I really. um. The thing was they were doing a lot of stuff during the time. Like they have the 10x's, they got 2x's. So you kind of get into this like, well, I just did this. I can't buy more to do this. Like, and
Yeah,
eventually I was like, no, I'm not gonna support. And I was like, I'll eventually get her. And of course, I never eventually got her. And now I'm kind of like sad that I didn't because I should have.
yeah.
Um, there's there's so many things you can use her for. Hydra, Arena,
Yep,
like Action Wars. She's just too good. Even Doom Tower. She has an amazing Doom Tower speed lead.
that
Like,
is true. Yeah,
oh,
and that
it's
it
crazy.
wasn't always Doom Tower, right? It was something else before, and then they got
Yeah.
changed it to Doom Tower or something like that. I think it was like Dungeons before or something. I don't know. Maybe. Um,
Hmm.
I didn't end up going for her at the time. Again, I was that was my free to play dry spell. Um, I wish I had, but I pulled one on the main, one on the alt, and then next thing you know, I've got two on each account. So, but if you want, I'll trade you one. You know, Plarian, add trading to the game.
Right.
Uh, Next one we have, I want to say the like god tier epic. Uh, where is she? Coldheart. I mean, what can't she do? She was She was back, what, September 2021, and she was for 7 void shards. I think, I mean, she's great for so much. In my opinion, the 7 void shards was a steal for her. What about you?
Yeah, because I know players who pull 20, 30 void shards just hoping that one of the rare attacks will eventually be a cold heart. And I know some players who have gone almost a year and a half without even one. So imagine only pulling 7 and guarantee you could get a cold, like you could technically pull get 7, and then if you did like a 2x later and get another,
Yeah.
I think it's a steal. They need to do more stuff like that because they knew the player base needed it at the time, so it
Oh
was
yeah.
huge. Yeah,
Oh yeah.
that's a super steal.
I think she was great. I think that one was definitely worth doing. Uh, Next we have another lovely lass. I believe same faction, and Madame Cerise, who, I mean, you could not push for Platinum Arena if you didn't have her. Uh, just just god tier epic, and she was for 30 void shards. This is where they started. They crept up from like the 15 for Ursula to 30 for her. So, did you end up going for her?
At the time, I already had a madam, um, and I thought about getting a second one because tag team arena.
Hmm.
I thought of maybe different variations like immunity madam, high, accuracy madam. So I thought of different situations because you didn't need that much resist at the time.
Right.
Like the cap was a certain amount. It wasn't like crazy now. So I thought about it, but I was like, for me, that was a lot. If it would have stood up like around 15, 20, maybe I would have done it.
You ever notice she's wearing potions on her leg right here? I bro, I've never like paid attention to that. Wow. I mean, until you like stop and like actually look at them, like there's a lot of things you just don't pay attention to. Um, so I did end up going for her, right? I spent the 30 void shards because I needed her. I built her right away. And then the very next week after they did that, it was 2x voids, and I ended up pulling 3 more. I was like, damn, should have just waited. um, Next we have, I believe he's in the same faction, Vizier of Velis. He was 111 ancient shards. Overall, I like him. I had him on my alt account for the longest time. I used him on my clan boss team. I mean, he allowed me to get into like a 2 key ultra nightmare team by just keeping up all the poisons and stuff. But did you end up going for him?
No, I didn't need him at the time because I wasn't needing like a team that required me to like extend the debuffs or anything like that. So I didn't go, and I thought that was a lot. When I was like 111, I was like he wasn't really buffed, and he was starting to slowly, like, people were using him back then because he was a god for clan boss, but like I thought to myself, overall value, where else am I going to use him? So that's why I didn't go for him.
Right. Yeah, I had him, so I didn't go for him. But I think the 111 shards was a little on the high end. I probably would have said 100 would have been good for him. Um,
Right.
Granted, 11 shards doesn't seem like a lot, but trying to collect 11 shards and save them is a different story in this game, especially nowadays. So next was our boys YST's favorite champ, Genzen. I mean, the guy looks fucking awesome. Uh, but did you end up going for him?
It was the same thing that happened with Kimmy. There was events that went on. I spent a lot, pulled, and then they were like, "Oh, guaranteed Gensen." I was like, "Bro," I was like, "You gotta be kidding me!" Like, and we weren't used to these guaranteed. We thought these were like small things. We didn't realize it was going to be back to
Right,
back. If you notice, once they started with Kimmy, they went all Shadowkin. So I didn't like it was crazy.
right. Well, I
Unfortunately, I
mean,
wasn't able to go.
he was done in November of 2021. And then he was just like literally right after the um Vizier one, and they did him for what was it, 120 ancients.
Yeah.
And it was right when you said it, as Shadowkin had just came out. But
Yep.
as you can see, I did not go for him. Not that I, didn't want him again. I just didn't have the shards. I didn't want to spend money in the game, so I was like, nope, I'm gonna hold off on that. Next we have, oh god, I didn't even know. Oh, this guy, uh, Gamoran. He was for 150 ancient shards. I mean, I think he looks kind of cool, but my opinion was I didn't really think he was worth 150. What about you?
Way too much.
Yeah,
Um, like I even when he first came out, I was like, this guy's niche. Like at least all the other champions like Lady Kimmy, Genzin, they're actually like you can use them. Like I pulled him later on. I didn't go for him, but I pulled him later on and still don't use him. And I'm not the type of
yeah,
player to actually vault champions.
yeah. Just nothing about his kit really screamed out, let me blow some money on him or let me blow some shards. I really wasn't a fan. So,
Right.
okay, so the next one actually is there was some controversy around this because this is right when Hydra came out and Inquisitor Shamel was god tier for the what was it, the Torment Head? For
Yes.
he throws out the fears. You just kept boosting the turn meter on the ally in the lead, and then all of a sudden they said, "Hey guys, we know he's too good. He's broken, but we're not going to nerf him. We're going to nerf deterrence." um, but he was what, 25 void shards for this.
Hmm.
Overall, I mean, even now I think for 25 voids, he's okay. He's not a must go for because there's just so much other stuff. There's so many other champs you can use in game for what he does. But I think he was okay. It wasn't. I don't think he was a must go for. I didn't go for him because I had to. But what about you?
Unfortunately, I would have loved to go for him. I just didn't have the void shards at the time. Um, like to this day, I still don't have one. I wish
Wow.
I had one. Yeah.
Um. So the next one, I think this was the first epic they did that was a sacred shard, and it's no one else but Rector Drath. She is solid. I mean, she's always been solid. She's positive affinity to um, what was it, Trunda. So she was great for arena. She's great in Hydra because she brings that veil. So they had her for what was it, 4 sacred shards. Um,
Yes.
I think that was worth it. 4 sacred shards. I mean, you had to still save up for a couple of weeks if you're doing claim boss or 2 rotations of Doom Tower. But I think, yeah, I say she was good for 4 sacreds. What about you?
Yeah, I think she was pretty good. I was pulling shards anyways. So I pulled a 4. I think it was my second one because I already had one. So I was like, man, I'm gonna probably use another one. I really like the champion, and they were giving like free if you were codes at the time. Like if you
Yep.
start a new account, you were getting one. I was always telling her like, yo, choose that champion. She's really good. People just didn't like, I guess, that it was 4. It could have been like 2 or 3. You're like,
Yeah.
oh man, but
Yeah, but 2 or 3 is, that's on the low end. Like I think 4 was a good fit. I'm not gonna say that she wasn't worth the 4 sacred shards. I think she definitely was. Next we have this lovely lass from Sacred Order, God Seeker Aniri. She was, what is it, 25 void shards. I think 100% worth the 25 void shards. Just everything she does, everything she enables you to do, especially now where people use her in Sand Devils Necropolis. Um,
right.
if they threw one out for another 25, any new players that didn't have her would definitely go for her. And what she enables you to do, I mean, You can she can be your only sustain in clan boss Hydra. For the longest time, I used her as my solar healer and reviver in Hydra. So I think for 25 voids, she was definitely worth it. What about you?
Yeah, I have two God Seekers, so I love the champion. So when she came out, I definitely went for her. I had to catch my second one. Like one wasn't enough, you know.
Mm,
I almost fully booked in Master 3. Like that's how obsessed I was with the champion.
yeah,
This is before she was popular in all these other areas of the game.
I have three built out on my account because I was using one for each level of Hydra.
Wow.
Um, After that, we have uh, this one used to be, and still kind of is. I wouldn't say god tier anymore, but she's been really. She was really good when she came out. Wither the Crowned. She was the 15 sacred shards.
Mhm.
Um, I think I think she was definitely worth it. I pulled for her on my alt account. I didn't pull for her on my main because I already had a Duchess, so I didn't really see the need to have her. Now I kind of regret it. Probably should have pulled her for my main than my alt, but I think overall for 15 Sacred Charge, she was good, solid. She helped with progression. She brings the lead. She brings the solid heal, cleanse. So especially for arena, she was good for like a stall team. But yeah, I'm happy with this one. I think 15 Sacreds was a good deal for her. What about you?
I mean, for when she came out at the time, yeah, she was kind of busted on arena defense. Just very like even Withers could like basically never die. People were having trouble like with a whole team trying to kill her because no one was bringing heal reduction, right? It's
Oh,
not that's never been like a meta thing to do. So people would just bring a whole team, and if your nuker couldn't one shot, you were screwed. Um, I didn't go for her unfortunately because I pulled her during a 10x Wither, so I didn't need to.
mm.
And then during another 10x of her, I got her again. So I've gotten her two of her on 10x's.
Yeah, I think on my alt account I have it's she's either +1 or +2, but I don't have anything on the main. But yeah, overall I think she was great, uh, a great addition, and definitely worth the shards. Then the next one we have here is Rusick. Ooh, that's a good one because I have no idea where he is.
It's the female on the right above Lua.
Above Lua, where?
Dark elves.
Oh,
Epic.
oh, 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 oh. I was like, wait, what? She's not here. Yeah. So, I mean, cool skin. They always do great with those. And she was for 40 ancients, but her her kit just didn't really scream out must go for her. I mean, I think she was the first one that started bringing, or at least one of the epics that started bringing decreased resistance.
Right.
Um, but nothing really about her screamed let me go for her, so I didn't personally go for her. What about yourself?
Yeah, unfortunately, I didn't. I like the integration of bringing new debuffs, like decrease resist, decrease accuracy. But when you look at her kit, she's a 1-3-4 fully booked. And I was like, man, I'm not giving give you shards for a champion that's not even 1-3-3. I was like, no way. So I was like, no.
Yeah, I think maybe if she was like, I don't know, 20 or something, like her kit just didn't really scream out like I needed to get her. And I had already cleared Faction Wars, so it's not like she was going to bring something to the table that I needed. But
Exactly.
after that, we have this one was kind of unique because when he came out, he was the first to bring increased resistance to the table, right? Where is it? His A. Oh no, was it increase? No, it was increase accurate. No, I thought it was. I thought he brings increased resistance.
No, it's always been accurate.
Oh, well, then maybe I'm wrong. Archbishop Penthroy. He was for what 1,550 shards, ancient shards, and I didn't go for him because I had a Lady Kimmy at the point. and I didn't really see what the use for me to have him would be. What about you?
Yeah, 150 was a lot. Like, I
Mm,
mean, Kimi was 150, Genzin's 120. I think at 120, I think more people maybe might have been tempted, but me, I saw 150 and I was like, you're crazy. Like his kit's not bad, right? It's not he's
right,
not a bad champion at all. He's 134, he's got some good buffs, he's got some, some heals and even a cool
right,
passive as well. But like I'm like, whoa, like I thought 150 was a little too much for this champion. I was like, no way.
right, right. So after that, we actually have this lovely, I don't know if she's a lady or a guy. No, it's a guy. Maybe, I don't know. Kyoku. Is it a woman
It's
or
a
is it's a woman? Yeah, it's a woman.
yeah, because she has those.
But yeah, so she was introduced and she was at what, 15 sacred charts, and
Yes.
I think overall, definitely worth it in my opinion. I did go for her, and yeah, I don't regret it. I mean, I actually even went for the champion training that had her. I think I ended up spending like 65,000 points to get her as well too. So because I wanted her as a Vault Guardian for my factional. But what about yourself? Did you end up going for her?
I wanted to. I thought she was actually worth 15. I was like, man, that's not that bad. It's like it was a little, I was hoping 12, like a 12 to 10, but like 15, I was like, man, because I knew people were gonna use her like a seeker in arena because of the passive slash A3. And I was like, man, if I don't go for it, everyone's gonna have her. I'm gonna be that one person that doesn't. And eventually I couldn't get close. And I was like, you know what? I don't want to spend the money, so I didn't do it.
Yeah. I think
But I
overall,
got
I
one
mean,
anyways.
yeah, I think overall, I mean, she was great. I use her for Hydra a lot on my alt account, and because of the extra buff she brings, she's a great mischief tank, you know. And then she can brings the either the decreased attack or the HP burn too. So after that, we get the very first Void legendary that they did, which was Riho Bone Spear. Um, I think she was what, 80 shards? 90 shards,
Nine
sorry.
ninety.
Um, I think she was great. I had her on the alt account, and I did go for her on the main. I ended up breaking my free to play spell right there and said, "Yep, nope, I want her." So I think she was overall for the 90 void shards. I think she was definitely worth it. Um, and I think they picked her at that point in time because Mithrala had just came out, and she kind of did the same thing as her. But Riho Bone Spear had just much more of a better passive. So it was like an automatic cleanse on her. So I think overall, 90 shards was definitely worth it for her. What about you? Did you end up going for her?
The moment they announced the guaranteed, I was like, oh man, I'm gonna have to pull out the credit card because I did not have that many voids. And man, there's everything about her art, her kit. I thought like, how you gonna debuff? How you gonna like? She'll just always remove it, and she's gonna just cleanse everybody. And I was like, man, it's gonna be an annoying defensive character. Little
Yeah,
did we know, it would have been insane for Alname, right?
that's
Um,
true. Yeah.
but unfortunately I wasn't able to. I just didn't spend because it was going to cost me hundreds. I was like,
Yeah.
damn, that's too much. So I didn't do it.
Not to get too far off the topic, but do you think Plarium releases these champions like a year or two in advance, knowing with what progression and what they're going to put out in content, and say, yeah, they're going to use this for this, so we're going to put it out now and see what they do?
Normally they use FOMO and they use what people like popularity or people want like, oh, this person, we don't have this, I want this, and then they'll give it to you and try to get you. And then I feel like there's like 20% of that happening where they'll kind of like, oh, you had this chance, like with Geomancer, right? They did it
Yeah.
so early and now everybody wants one. So
So next we have, there was a lot of controversy with this one because of the way he was worded. to come out. Rathmatab, I remember it said that this champion will not be summoned out of shards. I think it was ancient or sacred shards, and I this was the way Plarium was trying to do it. So like, you didn't get him before the one. I think what was he 120, and
Right.
so I think that was their way. But like, they very quickly learned after the community just went on an uproar with it. Like, okay, no, we need to go back and fix this. So they removed it like the very next day and just made sure that everybody knew that you could still pull him from the shards. Um, I was a bad boy. I did go for him. Um, on my alt account, I did not go for him on the main. I ended up pulling him afterwards. But I have him 6-starred level 1 from this champion training that we just had. And yeah, he's just sitting there in the vault. No gear on, nothing. What about you?
I think for me personally, I liked his A3 because he was one of the first few characters to bring increased resist into the game. But I just didn't like the fact that it was combined with reflex damage. I'm like, what?
Mm.
It could have been like, could have been increased defense. It could have been strengthened. It could have been increased speed. There's already a champion that does that, but which we'll find out. But I was just like, man, I was like, no way. Like they want 120. I was like, no. But if I were to go back now, I still probably wouldn't do it honestly. So that
Yeah,
just goes to show you.
it was, they released them like after the resist meta was out. You know, reaction gear had
Yeah.
already been introduced, so resist was already out. They weren't really, not many players were doing it that way anymore, you know.
Right.
So after that, we have the one you were actually thinking about, the queen herself for um,
Spider.
Spider, Stacia Flametongue. Uh, she was what, 12 sacred shards?
Yep.
I think overall it was a great price for her, shard value wise. You actually ended up pulling the shards for this for me on my alt account, but I did not go for it on my main. Um, I think we ended up getting something else. I think there was another like epic, or not epic, Lego dwarf that we ended up getting while we were trying to get her as well. But I think overall, definitely worth the 12 shards. Um, and I would definitely do it again if they had her. What about you?
Yeah, I would definitely do it if they had her again. Unfortunately, I didn't get to go for her. Because like I said earlier at the beginning, it's just I had different burners. And a lot of people will get mad at me, like end game players. They were like, "Oh, you're an idiot. You don't know anything about this." And I was just like, "Look, I do understand she's really nice, but people were just basically using her in one content. Like I think in that now that Hydra and other content's coming out, people are slowly using her other places. But back then, when there was just pretty much just a spider, trap, like they would just throw her in, and that's it,
Yeah, no,
But
I used her in Doom Tower quite a bit. I paired her with Torment. So,
oh
you know,
yes,
I paired her with Torment, and Torment was in a stun set, so it was just complete lock everything, except for the Sifu Rotos pair floor.
right.
Other than that, everything was, just locking them down. But I never used it for Clan Boss. I never used it for anything else. I did use it for I think it was like Hard Hydra. I didn't really think she was great for Brutal or Nightmare. So, but I think overall definitely worth the 12 shards. Next one. Next one is same faction. Where's my boy Handrathon? He was for 150 ancient shards. Um, I was chasing him for the longest time because if you wanted to push Plat Arena defense, he had to be in it. But when they introduced him as the guaranteed, it was kind of towards the end of the meta of him being there. But for 150 ancient shards, I mean, he's still a great nuker. I see actually, I don't know if you see this a lot in Arena, but you'll see people come off and go with the A2, and then they won't shut off the A3 So then he'll do the A2, he'll nuke you, and then instead of doing the A1 like he's supposed to, they do the A2. And it's like, why? You could have just taken like two people out. But
Right.
I think overall for the 150 shards, I think he was definitely worth it. He's still a solid nuker in my opinion. What about yourself?
I do think he's worth 150. At the time, I think it's probably now like 110, 120.
Yeah,
Um,
agree.
I didn't I didn't go for him. I did get him afterwards, but I didn't go for him. It's just at the time I didn't have enough ancient shards, and I was already using like Vlad and other champions that could go kill him through. So I was like, if I have him, I'd just be copying everybody else. So that was another reason why I didn't go. But I did get one now.
Yeah, I have them both on the main and the alt. The main account, I just pulled him through a shard, and the alt account, I did actually go for him because I had the shard saved up. That's at that point, that's why I was like, nope, I'm gonna start saving shards because, yeah, they kept going for these events. Next we have Regash. I mean, this guy was for 150 shards. Forget the fact that, I mean, he just looks awesome. He looks like what was that? The guy from Thundercats.
King from I thought you were gonna say King from Tekken.
Oh yeah, that's true too. Oh man, Tekken, that brings me way back. I think like he just looks like the guy from Thundercats. Like I think he was awesome. He was for
That's true.
150. I actually ended up going for him both on the main and on the ult account. He's definitely worth it. I actually put out a video for him that has him soloing stage 21 faction wars, and he does it in like under 2 minutes. The gear is a
Oh,
little intense on it, but yeah, it's really good. And I think he's like lost like one out of every like 20 or something like that. But overall, I think 150 definitely worth it. And he's a great nuker for the arena too. Doom Tower, I think he's definitely worth it. I even actually in the build that I have him for Faction Wars, it works for like hard Hydra because he has to have some resistance. And because he brings the veil on himself, you can get him to be the mischief tank. So, what about yourself? Did you end up going for him?
no, I didn't go because like I was thinking to myself at the time. I was like, well, I already beat the faction. What would I use them for? And I was usually pretty much using like attack nukers. I didn't have a Siffy to use like a defense nuker at the time or anything like that. And I didn't want to build a team just for him. I was just thinking to myself, man, I'm gonna have to do too much for one champion. But I did like him. I know a lot of people did, and I mean, he does have good CC too and good buffs. You know,
Yeah,
I just didn't want to spend that many. So
yeah. No, I think overall he was definitely worth it, and I definitely like the flask right back here, hiding it. But uh, next one we have this guy was 15 shards, I think he was, and he is a where is he? Lizardman's Nekmothar. As you can see, I didn't go for him. And it was mostly because I just didn't have the shards, and I said, I already have a Chris. He does what Chris does. Chris does it a little bit better, but I didn't go for him. I just didn't see the value in him. But yeah, I think 15 or 12. No, what was he? He was 15
he's
sacreds.
15.
Yeah, so I think 15 sacreds. Um, Knowing what he can do now, I think is worth it. But and I'd probably go for him if I had him. But I didn't go for him. What about yourself?
Yeah, I wanted to because he just like he had everything. It reminds me of kind of like a fast version of Mighty Uko. Like he's got the AoE decrease attack on the A1. You know, he's got the decreased speed and increased speed on his A3. So like I just knew based looking at his base stats, I was like, oh man, he has really good. He has an aura that makes him go
Yeah,
fast. He has extra turns, the passive. I was just like, man, this guy's gonna be nuts for like any place where you need to control waves or like a boss, like and just keep lapping them. but I didn't have enough Sacres at the time. But it just kind of crazy how he shined out after this guaranteed. He just people started using him like crazy, and he was getting so much attention.
Yeah. The next one is Barbarian. He's been power crept. Not gonna lie. I mean, he is a clan boss champion. If there wasn't any, I've seen him like destroy. I think he was part of the what was it? The Mythbuster that Paho did, and it did like something almost 390 million damage or something like that. Um, he's been outshined by Ninja in Clan Boss, but I think overall he was for 80 voids. I didn't
Mm.
go for him on the main, but I did go for him on the alt account because I had the voids for him. So overall, I think 80 void shards was definitely worth it for him. I did use him in hard hydra for a while. If you can set him up with enough buffs, he can one shot just about every head, as long as it's like a decreased defense and a weaken out there. And it was. I think overall, like I said, I think he was good. Definitely worth the 80 shards. I wish I had gone for him on the main. He's definitely solid for faction wars. But what about yourself? Did you end up going for him?
I think no, I didn't go for him unfortunately. I usually when it comes to voids or just shards in general, I just pull a lot of my shards during like 2x's or 10x's and stuff like that.
Gotta say,
Because we didn't know. A lot of people knew they were going to do guaranteed, but we didn't know we were going to do a whole year. So when they started just going back to back, it's just
yeah,
you know there'd be guaranteed double Lego events. I'd rather do that than go for one guaranteed. And do I think he's worth 80? Even at this time, I think that's a fair price. I mean that they're going high on some of the voids, like
yeah,
90 plus. So 80 for a void legendary is not bad.
yeah. No,
I just
I
wish they
agree.
buffed him a little bit.
Yeah, I think he does. Need a little more love to come back into gameplay because, like right now, all I use him for is faction wars. So next we have um, a dwarf, which you actually end up pulling the shards for me on this account, which was Goffred Rustclad. And he was for 140 ancients. He was supposed to be, like arena meta, provoke, A1 stuns, and his passive was actually kind of cool. But I just went because I had the shards. I didn't really think I was going to need him for arena. Um, but yeah, overall, I think 140 might have been a little too high. Maybe
Yeah.
like 110, 120, I think would have been good. But what about yourself? Did you end up going for him?
No, unfortunately, because the number was really high. Like
Yeah.
his kit is unique because he has that like special passive and the stuns on the 3 turn is really nice. I have seen some people using him now or trying him in defenses, but
Mm.
at the time when he came out, like I know it's not that far back, it's only a few months, but still like that's a lot of ancients. Like it's um I think 120 would have been totally fair or
Yeah, I agree.
110, but 140 was especially because they've been hitting back so many events back to back. I think if 140 is kind of a little bit greedy.
Um, yeah, overall, I don't think he was worth the 140. I think 120. I had the shards, so that's why I went for it. But next, man, I think Plarium dropped the ball on this when they did it because oh, he's not even in the I'm not even in the right faction. Fortis. So man, talk about FOMO. They they dropped the ball on this. They said, "Hey guys, we are going to do a guaranteed void for what was he? 80 voids." And I was like, "Okay, 80 voids. That's good. That's not bad." Especially because they had just buffed Baron,
Right.
and I was like, "Okay, I had a Baron on this account. I didn't have one on the alt, So I went for it on the ult because I had the shards. Actually, I think I bought like 40 or something. But I was like, okay, cool. And then they said, oh, by the way, we're gonna fix him after the event. And there was an uproar on this. But overall, for 80 shards, even after his buff, I think is not worth it. Maybe 50. I don't think it was worth it. Did you end up going for him?
Well, I did a lot of research before I went for him, and I knew the content creators were saying, especially well, because I'm a official content creator, I'm able to see the chat and the stuff that people were saying to the player was like, "Look, this is not working right. The multiplayer is not working right. Did you guys test this?" It was crazy. And even after the change, he's still not enough. It takes
No.
too long, for a void. Now, in terms of was he worth 80? For 80 for a void's like Turvold. It's actually not that bad. But for what like you said, like what people are like, oh my god, I gotta do it now because this. What if they buff him and he becomes insane and they make
Right.
people think they gotta get it? That was kind of it's kind of messed up,
Yeah, it was the fear of FOMO. People were just like, yeah, no, we're gonna go for it for that. But I think this is where like the guarantees, for me at least, started to take a wrong direction. But
Yes.
after this, we had the introduction of the Sylvan Watchers, right? And they did the White Dryad Nia. Um, I know, was it White Dryad Nia? They do that. Actually, they did Doodad and then White Dryad Nia, but they were both like within days of each other.
Yep.
Um, I think this guy for what was he, 40? Uh, yeah, White Dryad, Doodan. No, Doodan the Ronak was 40 ancients. Um, he's okay. He was one of the first that brought the taunt buff in. And there was still not really use for it. Like, I mean, you can use them in Clan Boss for it, but other than that, I mean, I didn't go for this because I was like, well, I'll just end up pulling him for like a 2x or something. And so I didn't really think that he was worth it. So I didn't end up going for him. But what about you?
The I think for 40, it's not bad because it is something new. Like uh, you might need it when Silver Watchers opens up, or if you wanted to try out his like ability to put strength and counterattack and taunt, and he does have a pretty cool synergy with his A1 and the A3. But for me, I was like, I'm probably just gonna pull Ancients during a 2x, and I'm probably gonna get him anyway. So I was like, if he was Void, I probably would have went for him, but I didn't go because he was just an Affinity champion, and eventually I knew I was gonna get him, which I did.
So the next one actually was White Dryad Nia, and she was 30 uh voids.
Yes.
Um, I same feeling. Didn't really go for her because I learned my lesson from Madame, and I was like, you know what? Eventually, I pull enough shards, I'll end up getting her. Um, and honestly, most of the people that would probably go for her are players that are still trying to clear faction wars to get Lydia. I already have Lydia both on my main and my alt account, so it doesn't really it wasn't a necessity for me to say I need to clear that faction. So, not that she doesn't have a solid kit overall, but I didn't think I needed her, so I skipped this one. What about yourself?
Me, it was kind of like a Lady Kimmy situation. I was like, you know, um, December was coming, and there was a lot of personal things happening in my life because my birthday was coming up, and a whole bunch of other things behind the scenes. But I really wanted to go for her, like just like Godseeker. I was like, I'm doing it, because a lot of people that were looking at her, I'm like, oh, she's okay, good, decent epic, and I'm like, no, this champion can do so much. She can enable ninjas, she can enable clan boss teams because she has ally protection and strength, and she has an amazing passive like Hydra. I was like thinking like, yo, this is a really high, insane epic, just like Godseeker. And
Yeah.
unfortunately, I just couldn't use the card at the time because the life stuff was happening, and I was not able to get this champion. And to this day, I still don't have her, so I'm so mad. And I think she is definitely worth 30 void shard.
I think I just fed like 5 or 6 of her. Um, So next we actually have one from the Bannerlords, which I think was the second one they did. Stultus Dragonbane, the Dracomorph killer. Like,
You're right.
oh man, I was so. I mean, I was so sad. And when I did my showcase for him, um, I was like, I can't believe he's just wearing my favorite champions or like the clan boss champions skin. But well, I mean, it could be Draco, not Dracomorph, right? He could be wearing Draco skin. But
Mm,
it was what 150 ancients. I wanted him because I needed more damage dealers for my um faction wars, because my faction wars for Bannerlords was dry. It was taking me like 10 minutes to do stage 21, and he significantly improved it, and he's actually pretty good in a stone skin set. So I think overall 150 was might have been a little bit on the high side. I think maybe like 120 would have been better, because you don't see him in a lot of gameplay. But I think, yeah, I think 120 would have been a solid offer for him, but 150 was a little bit on the high end. But I did go for him both on the main and on the alt account. What about yourself?
unfortunately, I wasn't able to go for him, but if I could again, I would definitely tell people to go for him. He has double AoEs, especially his
Mm.
second one, and he has amazing debuffs. His passive is not like a one turn; it's infinite. Whenever an enemy tries to play it, weaken and decrease defense or poison, it just reflects. It just happens. He has a increased defense in all battles. Like everything about his kit is good. High base stats, like good nuker. Just overall, I think actually he is probably one of the best guaranteed. Like I was kind of like sad that I didn't go for him.
And I mean, he also brings his own increased defense buff, so that's always
Right.
great. So you don't have to pair him with like a Seifi or a Doom Screech or something. So it
Exactly.
allows you. I think I use him for 3v3 right now, and I have him with like my Lysandra and Torment. So, and he does pretty good. I have him in a stone skin build. After that, so next one, we had a lot of controversy in the community. This is where things went the wrong way. Um, we had Elva Autumnborn, and she was 20 sacred shards. And this is where I completely got turned off from any guaranteed. I told myself no matter what that I won't be going for him anymore. So I'm just going to go back to pulling for 2x and just for fusions. I did actually end up pulling her later on, both on my main, and then I ended up pulling two on my alt account on the same shard session. And I was like, God damn, 10x is really true. And yeah, overall, I mean, I think 12, 15 max would have been good for her. But I think Plarion was being very greedy doing 20. What about you?
Yeah, I saw the number and I instantly said no. I'm not supporting that. A lot of people will. The community always gets riled up and be like, no, I don't like this or anything, but then they'll still support it. I'm like, no, you got to show
Yeah.
with your wallets, otherwise they'll just keep making it worse. She is a very strong champion, especially for the new faction. But 20, I mean, they could have done at least 15, but that was them pushing limits. And what scares me or scares most people is that what if they keep going, So
Well, I think the next two are definitely what are definitely going to show us that they're going for it and they're going to keep sticking to their guns. But yeah, so overall, I don't think she was worth the 20. I wouldn't have gone for her if I had the shards. Well, I did have the shards and I still didn't go for her. I did end up pulling her later on though. And then after this is where things really, really start going into the wrong direction, because we had a Lil, who was, I guess, supposed to be like a stone skin killer and all of this, but I mean, he looks cool. but they increased the amount of void shards needed from 80, 90 to 110. And I I was a hard pass on this. I was like, nope, not doing this. It's not worth it. I didn't really care for it, so I passed. What about yourself?
Yeah, well, for me, one, it was way too many void shards, and two, it was another Fortis situation where
Yeah,
players and content creators were telling, once again, they were telling player, look, it's not actually working the way you wrote it in game. It's sometimes it ignores stone skin, and sometimes it just doesn't. So
yeah,
you end up like fighting, and then it's just not working. So maybe that's another. They were hoping for people to be like, oh yeah, it's gonna be like another stone skin counter. Cool.
yeah,
It kind of backfired on them, just like Fortis, and hopefully they'll fix it and he'll actually be good and people will use it in plat push, but we'll see.
yeah, yeah. Overall, I don't think he was worth the 110. Maybe
No.
80, you know, but even at that, I wouldn't have gone for him either. So next we have, oof, you want to talk about controversy? This guy, Jogger. Um, I don't have him on my main account, but on my alt account, I am the proud owner of a +2 Ramantu, which
Oh.
means I have fed two of him. Um, and he was the one of the most recent guaranteed for 110 voids. And I put out a video saying don't go for him, don't do it. I'm like, they brought him out because of Sand Devils, thinking people would go for it. But in my opinion, like he's not worth the shards that are needed and the books that are needed just for Sand Devils. I mean, maybe for people that don't have Ninja, you can use him because of how his passive works. But
Right.
I was like, no, I'm not doing it. I'm not. 110 is way too much. So, what about yourself? Did you end up going for him?
Luckily for me, I didn't have to go for him because I already had one, because I didn't feed it, or I just luckily pulled him during a 40 shards, and I got a warlord and a chugger, so I was happy that I already
Nice.
had a chugger. If I didn't have a chugger, would I pull 110? That's kind of crazy. Like I would have to care of just about Alname because let's be honest, unfortunately, when he was out already, he was decent. People were using him a little bit at arena, but Stone Skin changed a lot of champions.
Yeah.
And like in terms of using, in terms of pushing or taking like tag team serious. So you don't really see him used much. If you wanted to use him in, Lizardman faction only dragon right now, you could, which I'm kind of doing that. But you don't really see him in Iron Twins. You don't really see him maybe faction wars, but only Doom Tower hard and Alname is the main area you're going to use him. So charging 110 is a lot for him. I think
Yeah.
80, 90 would definitely be worth, but 110 is just still too much.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree. Overall, like I said, I'm a proud owner of a +2 Ramontu, so enough said there. And then the last one we just had, right? Was a Skinwalkers Augmentum. And I think this guy was what, 30 voids?
40.
40. 40. Thank you. Um, I unfortunately did not go for him because I already had 2 copies of him from the last time.
Hmm.
Um, 40, I think, is a little too much. I think like 25 because there is some content in the game that he can solo, but I don't think he's worth 40 void shards. Most of the epics I don't think are worth that many. Just because eventually you'll end up pulling them. It's just a waiting game. But I did not go for him. What about yourself? Did you go for him?
I wanted to get him because I have pretty much like almost every epic except him. So when they released him, I was like, oh man, I don't have him. So, but I didn't have 40 voids, and I thought to myself, is it worth to spend maybe a little bit of money to get him because it's guaranteed? I looked at his kit. I'm like, I already have tons of poisoners and hex, but if I had to, if someone was saving, yeah, it is good. There's not that many epics, especially in this guarantee, that can actually solo and do lots of damage. So I was like thinking, like, dang, this could be good for maybe a person who is saving, even a free to play player. You can do a lot of stuff, but overall, I think 30 would have been fair. I think 40 was a little pushing a little too
Yeah,
much, you know. But he's not bad, you know. But he's just not. It's a little, yeah, it's a little high.
yeah, I agree. So, yeah, that has been all the legendaries, all the epics that have been guaranteed. Overall, you know, there's been some good, there's been some bad. They started out, in my opinion, good, but towards the end now they've been going really, really bad. I feel like they've just been really greedy, and so I've kind of abstained from participating in those events. So, what about yourself? What do you think? What do you think the direction is going to be from this point on?
Um, if they keep increasing, well, then it's gonna be like this video. You're not gonna hear me going for them, because honestly, I only went for like 3 or 4. And I like to go for the double legendary events. I think I like that. I like to go for 2x's, and I only go for 10x when it's something like a Kaimar Siffy, like something super insane. I try, but if they want guarantees to be good, then need to, you know, like you can put a 10x, you know, certain champion there and let people wail for that, but guarantees are for people who are actually saving, who don't want to do the two times event, who don't want to do 10x, who don't want to do guaranteed double legendary. That's what this event is for them. Those people who save, and you can't make someone who's saving spend a ton. That's messed. You know, in my opinion, I think it's a little too greedy. So
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. So before we wrap up, Jay, do you have any shout outs you want to give to anybody out there?
in, in, in
In like one of your followers, another content creator, anybody else, any shout outs you want to give?
Oh yeah, definitely definitely Kundo. Spoke with Kundo. He's a YouTuber. He's a new upcoming you know, content creator. I like his content. There's some other people too, but for now, I would say him. He has some interesting stuff like solo Oboro, strategies in Alname where you bring chickens and Oboro can basically keep giving herself revive on death, so she solos it. He showed Ultimate Death Knight soloing Iron Twins, you know, 11, 12, but if you had the gear, you could probably do 13 and 14. So it is pretty cool. What he's trying is something different. It's not like the typical, like, hey, let's just do Ninja Godseeker, you know, let me show you this version. So I like it. It's just a little bit of OC slash like his own thing. I think he's a really cool person. So I would definitely check, you know, that person out. Kundo
Cool.
on,
I'll
yeah,
uh
great.
I'll pin or I'll put in the description below his YouTube channel. You guys can go check him out. Make sure you give him a sub. It doesn't cost anything. You know, support the guy. You know, we all do this because of the community. Both myself, both Jay. You know, we love the community. We love what we do, and it's enjoyment for us. So this is why we do it. But yeah. So guys, as always, much appreciation, much love. Be safe and be good to each other. And we'll catch you guys later. Bye.
All right. Bye.